Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming tonight. I'd like to remind everybody to silence your cell phones, put them on vibrate, shut them off. As I've said many meetings before, you don't want to be the one in the room whose phone goes off in the middle of the silence. The following non-resident town officials and department heads have asked to be admitted to town meeting and be allowed to respond to questions and speak on issues that are before the town meeting this evening. Without objection, they may be seated. Town Administrator Jim Boudreau and Town Council Tom Mullen, who are seated with the Selectmen. Town Clerk Trudy Reed, who's seated on the stage with the moderator. Superintendent of Schools, Mrs. Jane Tremblay, who is seated with the School Committee. Department of Public Works Director Andrew Lafferty, who is seated in the box. The Senior Center Director Linda Nakara, who is seated with the Council on Aging. Library Director Nancy Ryan, who is seated with the Board of Library Trustees. Richard Simmons from the Board of Assessors. Ann Bray, who is a runner, not sure what that has to do with meeting tonight, but she's asked to be admitted and is seated in the non-voting area. Jewel McCarthy, the Town Accountant. Zachary Blonick, the microphone, is running the microphones. Phil Vaccaro. Bob Curtin, the Assistant to Administration. Bill LaForme from the Linfield Weekly News. Andrew Lyons, the Center Golf Course. Mark Tatro, the Fire Chief. Maureen Doherty from the Villager. Michael Shear from Carter Road. Michael Shear is a resident. So, without objection, seeing none, they may be admitted. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I would like to publicly acknowledge Selectman Dave Nelson, who provided great service over a number of years, including the last 3 as a member of the Board of Selectmen, who's been an active member of our community and decided to retire from the Board of Selectmen. So our thanks to Dave. I would also like to thank Finance Committee member Janet Moran, who's down front tonight, who's been on the Finance Committee for way too long and was kind enough to, I don't say that from a critical standpoint, from her standpoint, but was kind enough to stay on. She called me a year ago and asked me off, and I asked her to stay on for 1 more year if she would be good enough, and she was nice enough to do that. And she's done a great job. I thank you very much for your service, Janet. I'd like to welcome our new Town Administrator, Jim Boudreau. Those of us that deal with the Town Administrator on a regular basis have already discovered that he's very knowledgeable about his job and has had a number of good suggestions to make. So welcome to Linfield, Jim. Thank you very much. We had a pretty good response from the use of voting cards last time, so we've decided to use them again in this meeting. If we need to take a vote that is not a voice vote, we'll ask you to hold up the cards. They will be counted by tellers. I would just ask that when you leave the meeting, you place them in the basket that's by the door on the way out. From the warrant to the constables of the town of Linfield and the county of Essex, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections and in town affairs to meet in the middle school auditorium and in a gymnasium, if necessary, on Monday, April 27th, 2015 at 7:30 p.m., then and there to act on the following articles. Without objection, I'll waive the reading of the warrant in service. And I held in my hand the warrant for this town meeting, including the return of service from Paul Minsky, Constable. Yep. Folks, for those that have not been here before, and there's always a few, I see a lot of long-time faces here at town meeting, but there's always a few. This is an open forum. Anyone's welcome to speak. Anyone's welcome to go to the microphone. I would ask you to Give us your name when you get up to speak. Once you're recognized by the chair, give us your address. Please wait for the microphone before you speak. And I would just remind everyone tonight that if you get up to speak, it must be germane to the article under discussion. So if there's a motion, it must be germane to the article. If there's an amendment, it must be germane to the amendment. That means it must pertain to it or be about it. Anyone can amend a motion by changing the wording or amending the dollar amount of the motion. If you have a short 1 or 2 word type amendment, you're welcome to give it to us verbally. If you're having something longer, we would appreciate it in writing up front. Or you can send it to linfieldtm@gmail.com. That's linfieldtm as in town meeting @gmail.com if you have a portable device. Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and welcome everybody tonight. Thank you for coming. I move that if necessary, this annual meeting be adjourned on Thursday, April 30th, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. in the middle school auditorium, gymnasium, and cafeteria if needed, should the business of the meeting not be complete this evening.
Is there a second?
Second that?
It's been moved and seconded that if necessary, this annual town meeting be adjourned to Thursday, April 30th, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. in the middle school auditorium, gymnasium, and cafeteria if need be, should the business of the meeting not be completed. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Mr. Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to take Articles 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 out of order, in that they be passed by consent in accordance with the motions shown on the consent agenda distributed this evening.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the town vote to take Articles 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 out of order, and that they be passed by consent in accordance with the motions shown on the consent agenda distributed this evening. By way of explanation, folks that have not been here before, first of all, this requires a 4/5 vote, which means that if it's not unanimous, we'll turn to the cards and vote. I'll ask for a vote after discussion or after we're done. What this does is effectively takes all of these motions, which are described as administrative motions, and it moves them forward all at the same time. It means we don't have to deal with them later. So I'm going to go through each one of them. If there's an objection or anyone wants to hold or discuss any one of them, I would ask you to tell me then, and we'll go back. We'll pull that out and we'll take it up in its normal course. So when I ask about number 1, if you want to talk about number 1, just say hold, and we'll take number 1 up in the course of business. If you don't say hold at this time, we'll be part of the consent agenda, and we'll deal with it as part of this entire consent agenda. And that was about as clear as mud, I guess, but anyway. So is there anyone that would like to have discussion on Article 1? Hearing none. Article 2. I hear none. Article 3. Hearing none. Article 11. Hearing none. Article 12. Is that a hold? It's a revolving fund for the Board of Health. Did you find it, Mr. Schaffner? Okay. Anyone else wants to hold on 12? Article 13. Article 14. Article 15. Article 16. Okay, we're going to pull Article 16. We'll take Article 16 up in the normal course of business. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? Does anyone like to be heard? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. The article is to see if the town will vote to take Articles 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 out of order, and that they be passed by consent in accordance with the motions shown on the consent agenda distributed this evening. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, it's unanimous. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds sums of money to supplement certain accounts in the current 2015 fiscal year where balances are below projected expenditures for various reasons or what action it will take thereon. Mr. Barrett.
I move that the town vote to transfer from existing fiscal year 2015 appropriation accounts the sums listed in the handout entitled Articles 4 and 6, 2015 annual town meeting, to the accounts listed in said handout in order to balance the FY15 budget.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded that the town vote to transfer from existing fiscal year 2015 appropriation accounts the sums listed in the handout entitled Articles 4 and 6, 2015 annual town meeting, to the accounts listed in said handout in order to balance the fiscal year 15 budget. The selectmen have a recommendation?
Article 4 is recommended by the Board of Selectmen.
Finance committee?
Finance Committee also recommends Article 4.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. To see if the town will vote to transfer from the existing fiscal year 2015 appropriation accounts the sums listed in the handout. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money from emergency medical services retained earnings to pay expenses and contractual services required to operate the emergency medical service in the town of Lynnfield in the current 2015 fiscal year, or what action it will take thereon. Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to transfer $40,000 from emergency medical services retained earnings to pay expenses and contractual services required to operate the emergency medical service in the town of Lynnfield in the current 2015 fiscal year.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded that the town vote to transfer $40,000 from emergency medical services retained earnings to pay expenses and contractual services required to operate the emergency medical service in the town of Lynnfield in the current 2015 fiscal year. Discussion. Recommendation of the selectmen,
Board of Selectmen recommend Article 5.
Finance committee.
Finance Committee recommends Article 5.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote to see if the town will vote to transfer $40,000 from emergency medical services retained earnings and to pay expenses and contractual services required to operate the emergency medical service in the town of Lynnfield in the current 2015 fiscal year. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate by transfer from available funds sums of money to pay overdue bills of a prior fiscal year or when action will take thereon. Mr. Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate $4,540 from free cash to pay the overdue bills from a prior fiscal year as listed on the handout entitled Articles 4 and 6, 2015 Annual Town Meeting.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to appropriate $4,540 from free cash to pay the overdue bills from a prior fiscal year as listed on the handout entitled Articles 4 and 6, 2015 Annual Town Meeting. Selectmen's recommendation.
The Board of Selectmen recommend Article 6.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends Article 6.
Is there any discussion? Yes, sir, in the middle. Wait, please wait for the microphone.
Mr. Moderator, this isn't germane to this, but the sound quality is very poor, and I was wondering if maybe some of the microphones in the front were turned on and could be turned off. There's a strange echo that makes it very difficult to hear.
Okay, let me see if we can get that fixed. Is there any other discussion on this article? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote to see if the town will vote to appropriate $4,540 from free cash to pay the overdue bills from a prior fiscal year as listed on the handout entitled Articles 4 and 6, the 2015 Annual Town Meeting. This requires a 4/5 vote, so if we can get it unanimously, then we don't have to proceed to a card vote. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. The article passes. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate by transfer from available funds or otherwise a sum of money for the necessary town charges and expenses or what action it will take thereon. Mr. Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds the sum of $47,668,389 for the necessary town charges and expenses as presented by the Board of Selectmen and as shown in the Finance Committee report beginning on page 6 thereof.
Is there a second?
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds the sum of $47,668,389 for the necessary town charges and expenses as presented by the Board of Selectmen and is shown in the Finance Committee report beginning on page 6 thereof. Let me explain the process that we've traditionally used here at town meeting, and that is to go through the budget in groups of line items. For instance, looking at page 7, the first group is general government, line 1 through 11. I would ask if there's any holds be placed on that group. If you have an issue that you'd like to discuss, we'll hold and discuss that group. Other than that, we'll proceed to the next group. If there's nobody that wants to talk about one of those 11 items, we'll proceed to the next group and discuss them as we go through. Mr. Terranova?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to present a motion, please.
Okay. Mr. Terranova, I'd suggest that when we get to line 73, ask for discussion, and we'll discuss it at that point.
Okay.
Is that the same with
Well, if,
Article 8, same thing?
okay.
before we proceed to the line items, is there a recommendation on the article by the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommend Article 7.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends Article 7.
All right, folks, so we're gonna go through this group of line items by group of line items. If you'd like to discuss anything in the group, please say so, and we'll engage in the discussion. Line items 1 through 11, general government. Yes, ma'am. Please wait for the microphone.
Hi. Is this okay? I don't know if this is going to work. Okay. Kendall Ingles, 23 Huckleberry Road. I'm just wondering, why is there 0 for town report? There doesn't seem to be much for a town report. Don't we usually generate those like we used to?
I'm sorry, the question was?
We used to have a town report that gets published.
Why don't you wait 1 second, Mrs. Inglis, and see if we can try to get it so everyone can hear you, because I think everyone would like to hear what you have to say.
I just want.
The question was, is there any money set aside for the town report publishing? Mr. Boudreau?
Most of that work is now currently done in-house, so there is no expense. If there's a little expense, we cover it out of the selectmen's expense line, so we don't need a separate line for the town report. Yes.
Any other questions on line items 1 through 11? Mr. Prosperi? Right behind you.
I just don't understand something on page number 6, under free cash. I'm not questioning anything, I just don't understand it. We had $950,000 in 2015, and we have a 100% negative for 2016. Could somebody just explain that to me, please?
Mr. Boudreau?
Sure, we're actually not using any free cash on the FY16 budget. So it is a negative number because we use money in 15, but we're not using any money in 16.
Any further questions on line items 1 through 11? Line items 12 through 28. Any questions on those line items 12 through 28? Right in the front row up there.
Hi, Mark McDonough, 167 Bork Road. Just had a question about 12, council's salary. We sending the town council a court every day. Why is the salary going up 74%? What's going on that we need the town councilor much more than we have before?
Mr. Boudreau?
That line's going up for 2 reasons. The first one is we've already expended the town council line for this year. We're probably over by about $10,000. So the amount of money that the town is expending on council has gone up. Secondly, in the new fiscal year, all the town's labor contracts are expired, so we will be using town council a little bit more to help on those contracts.
Any other questions on line items 12 through 28? Up in the back.
Line number 22, treasurer's salary.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Dr. Richard Piner, 3 Rock Lane, Linfield. Treasurer's salary going up 24,000, 17%, isn't that way out of line with the 2% or so everybody else is getting?
Mr. Boudreau.
Excuse me, if you look at line 16, you'll see a reduction of 11,455. There's a part-time employee that was in that line that has been moved down to the treasurer's salary, and their hours have been increased to full-time, and that's what explains that additional salary in the treasurer's line.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Line items 29 through 47. Mr. McKenzie.
Wallace McKenzie, 4 Devston Lane. On the assessor's budget, the town is setting aside $600,000 in the overlay reserve as a possible settlement with Market Street to reduce their taxes. I just want to make sure that the Board of Assessors has sufficient funds for consultants or attorneys.
Mr. O'Neill, are you here this evening? Do you want to comment on that? Please wait for a microphone.
Very briefly, at the time that we had our final figures, which was post-town meeting, and we had the additional revenues that were unanticipated. Yep. Okay. There was a sum set aside in anticipation of a protest, if you will, or an appeal by Market Street, and we would, at that point, probably engage the services of outside counsel as well as outside appraisers to support the work that was already done, the good work done by the appraiser that we retained in order to effectively, efficiently, and fairly evaluate Market Street.
Does that answer your question, Mr. McKenzie? Any further questions on 29 through 47? Mr. McDonough.
Mark McDonough, 167 Bork Road. On line item 37, salaries, Conservation Commission. We have 2 salaries, and they're going up 13%. I don't think there's anybody in this room who's getting a 13% salary increase this year. Is there any senior in this room who's getting a 13% increase in their pension? I don't think so. I'd like to lower that to 1%. 13% is excessive, grossly excessive.
Mr. Boudreau, care to comment?
Those salaries in the conservation, there's the conservation agent and a secretarial position in there. They're currently being reclassified. The line item has sufficient funds for the reclassification as requested. It could come in lower than that, but we have funded the entire reclassification. But this is based upon a review of those job descriptions and what's going on in conservation.
Mrs. Campbell, there is no motion and you're out of order. Please put your hand up to be recognized.
I'm seconding what I thought was a motion. Was I wrong?
There's no motion. Please wait.
Did Mr. make a motion?
He did not.
Okay.
Giving up the floor. If there's nobody else that wants to speak, Mr. McDonough, I'd be happy to recognize you again.
I'll put it in the form of a motion, lower 13% to 1%. It's excessive. I don't care what other towns are paying. I don't care about it being reclassified. It's the same job it was yesterday. 13% is grossly excessive. I make a motion, we lower it to 1%.
Mr. Boudreau?
The job of the Conservation Commission has changed markedly over the past. The amount of work has gone up tremendously, as well as the complexity of the work that they're doing. Almost every development we do in town now has some level of conservation involvement based upon the topography that we have. Also, these jobs have not been looked at in quite some time, where most of the other jobs in town have been reclassified or looked at in the past 5 years. So this is really, one, a recognition that the job has changed significantly, and two, as a fairness argument that they have not had the same review that the other town departments have had. So I would ask that the town leave it at the recommended amount.
Trusting me to do the math, and this is a mistake probably, but a 1% raise on last year's $69,641 would change that line item to $70,337.41. Somebody down front wants to verify that.
I believe it's 70,337.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion of Mr. McDonough's motion to reduce this salary line item to $70,337.41? Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. Boudreau had indicated that this job has not had maybe a vetting or an increase in some period of time. Maybe if we could have a little information about that. After 16 years on the planning board, I served 16 years on the planning board and worked hand in hand with Betty Adelson in the Conservation Commission. A lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of expertise. Again, 13% does look high for 1 year, but this might be an aggregate of several years, and I think the town meeting would need that information.
Mrs. Moran.
Thank you. Janet Moran, 25 Temple Road. I'm a longtime Finance Committee representative to the Conservation Committee, and I'd like to second what has been said by both gentlemen in regard to the amount of effort and work put in by the Conservation Committee and the fact that their salaries, I believe, have been under not only market but underrepresentative of the work put into their day-to-day efforts, which have increased incrementally over the past 5 to 7 years. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this line item? Mrs. Campbell. Can I get a microphone down front, please? Mrs. Campbell, could you put your hand up so they know where they're bringing it? Right there. Thank you. Please stand up. Identify yourself.
Hello, there we are. Patricia Campbell, 7 Patrice Lane. Why wasn't this increased gradually? Why are we waiting to increase it by $9,000 in one swack? Why was this the year of opportunity?
Mr. Boudreau.
Well, I can only speak for the last 4 months. When I came in, this was in process from the former town administrator, the process of reviewing the job description and the workload had begun. And I'm in the process of finishing that. We just got the commission to finish the job description and the review of the employee. I can't answer as to why it hasn't been done in several years, but I can tell you it's been at least 5 years since this job's been reviewed and has received any kind of increase along these lines.
Doesn't require a second. I'll proceed to a vote on the motion to amend line item 37 from $69,641, I'm sorry, from $79,006 to $70,337.41. All those in favor of amending this line item signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The motion fails. Is there any further discussion on line items 29 through 47? Hearing none. I'm sorry. Mrs. Shea.
Hello, Katie Shea, 7 Daventry Court. This is just a question. On lines 41 to 43, we have Personnel Board. How many members do we have on the Personnel Board?
Somebody like to answer that up front?
I believe currently there's one.
I'm going to take these in a little smaller group. Public safety, line items 48 through 52. Up in the back.
Tom Manning, 1046 Main Street. Question on 49. What analysis was done to determine that we needed to hire versus better utilize the resources we have to fill that void? Two additional officers, or was it 3 additional officers?
Mr. Manning?
Mr. Crawford.
Thank you. We added 2 officers, as was the original design when Market Street was being planned. When it went online, we had talked about adding 2 officers to the police force once we started realizing the revenues from Market Street. And that's what we put in place this year, was those 2 new officers that should be added by the end of the year.
Mr. Manning?
So was there any analysis, any research done to see that we needed those 2 officers?
Mr. Breen, would you like to?
Chief?
Chief?
Bring that microphone down front, please. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Manning. In 2009, let me just turn so I can face you. In 2009, there was a detailed analysis by the Badge Quest report that not only recommended that we hire 2 additional officers, but we also hire a full-time detective. It was paid for by this town, it was requested by the selectmen, and it was a detailed analysis that took several weeks to complete. That was the analysis that was done.
Any further discussion on line items 48 to 52?
If I could just add to what Chief Breen said, on the subcommittee for the police department, and we also spent a great amount of time with Chief Breen going over these additional positions. This year, there's laws passed where it's been recommended that there is a school resource officer. We don't currently have one, and I think, well, it's important to have that position given the world we live in today. And also there are pockets of folks in town who have concerns around traffic enforcement. So I think that, this addition to the police is really needed for that, a half and half position, which will be a school resource officer and traffic enforcement officer. And also we're one of the only towns to not have a detective. Most towns our size would have multiple detectives, and with the growth we've seen, I think it's a good idea and necessary to keep us safe.
Mr. Terranova.
Mr. Manning, I think we met several times at some meetings regarding the police enforcement in town, and we met with Chief Breen, at least on one occasion, and we talked on several other occasions, you and I. And this is the first step to addressing some of the issues that you have regarding traffic enforcement. In addition, there are other people around town that have traffic enforcement issues. Mr. Breen, in our discussions, recognizes that and is trying to address that issue. So this is the first step in addressing any police actions that are required in this town. And of course, we have issues with the school where we need an officer in the school, so we're addressing that fact as well. We are a small town. We're not the city of Boston. We're not going to have hundreds of policemen here, and we're not going to have a cop on every corner. However, with the budget that we have, Chief Breen is doing the very best that he can to manage the town and keep things under control. So I would like to thank Chief Breen and the entire police force for doing such a great job.
Any further discussion on line items 48 through 52? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the fire line, lines 53 through 60. Lines 61 through 63, zoning and inspection. Lines 64 and 65, civil defense. Lines 66 and 67, the dog officer. Lines 68 through 89, the Department of Public Works. Mr. Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Speaking, Tom Terranova, 37 Apple Hill Lane. Speaking as a citizen, I move to add line item 73A entitled Road Repairs and Maintenance and Replacement to the DPW operating budget in the amount of $500,000, thereby increasing the Public Works operating budget from $1,168,112 to $1,668,112. I'd also just like to jump ahead and, if I may, and explain why I'm making this motion, Mr. Moderator.
You're certainly welcome to explain this part of it. You can talk about Article 8, but we're not on Article 8 yet. If that's where your money's coming from, Mr. Terranova, you're welcome to do that.
Well, I'm talking about the operating budget, so that would be Article 7.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. As many of you know, we've had a horrific winter season. We drive around town, there's potholes everywhere. Parts of our streets are just in a shambles. My thought here was to really give our DPW director, Mr. Lafferty, a significant inflow of funds so he can make a dramatic impact with the poor state of our roads. I drove around yesterday for nearly an hour, and some of the roads that I saw were in really bad shape. I went down one road, London Road. We ought to be embarrassed about that road. That is just horrific. I don't know if anybody is here that lives on that road. It's a small road off of Main Street, and it's just unbelievable. It's just falling apart, every inch of it. I know that we don't have the money in our budget to solve all problems town-wide. However, everybody deserves to drive down a road, not have to worry about flattening their tire in a pothole, or not even having a fair amount of road to drive across. With today's cars, these low-profile tires that everybody has, I'm sure that people have had some problems. I know I've received several phone calls from people living in town regarding that matter, where one fellow called me and said that it cost him several $100s. It cost him a tire and a rim. So that's one of my, that's the reason for that. Also, keeping to my pledge of not increasing taxes, I would suggest that these funds come from the sale of real estate account. We currently have a balance in there of $1,880,250. We could reduce that down to $1,380,250, thus not creating a tax increase for anybody in town. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
It's been moved and seconded line item 73A entitled Road Repairs, Maintenance, and Replacement to the DPW operating budget in the amount of $500,000. I'm sorry. It's been moved and seconded to add. Give me 1 second here because I need to format this. Mr. Terranova, for formatting purposes, would you accept a motion that said you moved to add $500,000 to line item 73A entitled Road Repairs, Maintenance, and Replacement in the DPW operating budget?
Sure.
It's simply amending that line item by $500,000. So that's line item 73. I see you're adding line item 73A for another.
Right, my intent was just to make this a one-time injection of cash.
Yep.
And hence, that's why I had two different suggestions, one with Article 7 and one with Article 8, and I defer to your best judgment. I'm okay with the way you have it. I see what you want to do. I'm okay with that. So it's been moved and seconded that we add line item 73A entitled Road Repairs, Maintenance, and Replacement to the DPW operating budget and fund it in the amount of $500,000. That would thereby increase the Public Works operating budget from $1,168,112 to $1,668,112. Any other discussion on this amendment? Mr. Boudreau.
Mr. Moderator, I would just like to ask the DPW Director, Mr. Lafferty, with the funds that we have appropriated this year in the Chapter 90 allotments, we'll be spending almost $900,000 in appropriation for road work. I'm concerned whether or not he has the capacity to spend the additional $500,000. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm concerned about whether we can actually spend it in the fiscal year, given what he already has on his plate.
Can we get a microphone over to Mr. Lafferty? Thank you.
Yeah, Andrew Lafferty, DPW Director. Initially, it would take some effort to ramp up to spend an additional $500,000. I wouldn't foresee us probably being able to spend the complete $500,000 in addition to our current Chapter 90 and our existing operating budget. I would imagine a good portion of that, maybe half of that, would get rolled into the following year's construction season.
I might be overstepping my bounds. I believe this is the first time in my 50-year history in town meeting I've ever heard a town official say he doesn't want the money. Yeah. Is there any further discussion on this article? Mrs. Campbell.
I heard the maker of the motion say that it should come from the sale of real estate account, and I would like to know if that's part of the motion.
It was not part of his original motion, Mrs. Campbell. He mentioned it in discussion. He did not make it part of his motion. So his motion is proper. The town officials can decide where the money comes from, the way it's currently phrased. The formal motion did not include, I have a copy of the motion he made in front of me that he submitted to me, did not include the real estate account in it.
Mr. Moderator, might I be able to amend my motion?
You can amend your motion, Mr. Terranova.
I'd like to add language that the $500,000 would be derived from a transfer from the sale of real estate fund, reducing the balance from $1,880,250 to $1,380,250.
question is one of format and legality. I'll accept your amendment to the motion. Is there a second to his amendment? So the motion on the floor is to add line item 73A entitled Road Repairs, Maintenance, and Replacement to the DPW operating budget in the amount of $500,000, thereby increasing the Public Works operating budget from $1,168,112 to $1,668,112, the funds to come from the sale of real estate account. Mr. LaCours.
Harry LaCours, 28 Partridge Lane. I've been a long-time advocate for years on improving the roads and sidewalks in this town. It's long overdue. But I would like to offer, if it's appropriate, Mr. Moderator, an amendment to Mr. Terranova's motion. I think, unfortunately, it may be that $500,000, if I heard Mr. Lafferty correct, might be a bit excessive for him to handle. So if it's in order, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to modify the motion, amend the motion by Mr. Terranova from $500,000 to $250,000. And look for a second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend Mr. Terranova's motion from $500,000 to $250,000. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I agree with Mr. LaCours on this. The sale of real estate account already has some projects designated for some of those funds. We're going to be renovating the King Rail Golf Course and the clubhouse up there. A lot of those funds are going to be used for that. If we use the total of $500,000 out of that account, plus the project that we have already designated for those funds, that would drain that fund down close to zero. And that would leave us with no funds for the following year for any other projects or any unforeseen items that would come up. Not to mention, if Mr. Lafferty could not use the funds that were appropriated, they would have to be rolled back into free cash. They would not go into the next year's budget. So I would agree with Mr. LaCours that a $250,000 figure would be more appropriate. We've added about $250,000 to $300,000 over the last 3 years to that budget item, and we were trying to get it up to the $1 million figure. This would put us well over that number. But a $1 million to $1.5 million figure, if we could sustain that on an annual basis, we get our road renovation project back on course. Our 40-year project is currently somewhere around a 110-year schedule, so it's not quite working. So if we can get these funds appropriated and sustain funding that every year, that would be fine, and that would get us back on track. I think the 250 would be a much more reasonable number. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Mr. Schaffner.
Dick Schaffner, 67 Pillings Pond Road. Was obvious to me this hasn't been thought out. I agree with you, there's a lot of road problems in the town, but we're doing this on the fly. I think there's a budget line item in there now for a particular plan that's been put together. We're trying to change the plan here on the fly. I would suggest we just leave the budget alone until it's thought out better and then appropriate it at the right time. It hasn't been thought out. I agree with you 100%. I mean, when I was working for a living, we had to prioritize things. What roads you're going to do, how you're going to do it. Some of the roads I've seen weren't built right to begin with, so you can't put coal patches over roads that aren't done right. It's got to be thought out better. I agree with you, we need to work on the roads, but this is on the fly. This is not right. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Up in the back. Straight up, all the way up, there you go.
Mike Feinberg, Alexandra Road. The numbers that are being discussed are based on fiscal year 14 budget numbers. There's actually a $300,000 increase from that number already to the proposed budget for that line item. I'm just wondering if that would incorporate the numbers that Mr. Terranova is looking for.
Mr. Terranova.
No, I'm asking in addition, as this year's winter season was a phenomenal season, 1 in 20 years. So no, we're looking for some major improvements done to roads. I've driven by roads that over a month, you can see beneath the asphalt, you see dirt. We need to take charge of our roads and get some major repairs done as soon as possible. And I trust Mr. Lafferty and the DPW department understand the magnitude and the importance of repairing all these roads. And they need to be addressed, and the only way that he can address it is if we allocate funds to it. So I think that on many levels, I have thought this out, and the only way that the problem can be addressed is with money, unfortunately. I wish we could just wish the roads into better condition, but we can't.
Any further discussion? Mr. O'Neill. Microphone, please.
My fellow assessor Bonicelli points out, and we may be wrong, but I think that the math is looking at the 2014 budget, not the 2015 budget. The 2015 budget is 1.3 million and some change, which would get Mr. Terranova's motion up to 1.8. So I think we have to kind of redo our math. Is anyone here from Huckleberry Hill School? I don't know. So anyway, so.
So,
Mr. Gillen. Please.
Bob Gillen, 300 Main Street. I'm confused of what the numbers that you are talking about. I believe you should be looking at the recommended budget for 2016. And then
you're right, I have a typo.
That's correct.
Okay, and my next question would be, we're seeing a 40% increase in that line item 73. I'd be interested to know what is in the 40% increase, how much road repair from the last winter is already included in that.
Mr. Boudreau.
There's $250,000, which is a $130,000 increase over the current fiscal year.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Gillen?
The total budget for this fiscal year for road repair is $250,000. That's a $130,000 increase over the current fiscal year from 15 to 16. So of that $184,000 increase, $130,000 of it is for paving. The 250. Correct.
Mr. Dahlstead.
Jack Dahlstead, Lincoln Ave. Just to go back to the original answer when Director Lafferty was asked, excuse me, the total amount of funds available to repair our roads today is consistent of really four things. Fiscal year 15, which is the year that we're in right now and ends June 30th. So any balance that is left in Chapter 90 money there, which is $205,000. Fiscal year 16, the money that we get from the state that starts July 1st, which is $422,000. And then two other components, which is part of the operating budget. In fiscal year 15's operating budget, there's $34,000 left for paving. And in fiscal year 16's budget, the one that we're looking at here, and that the gentleman pointed out correctly, we should be talking about recommended FinCom BOS budget, the 643. There is $250,000 in that budget associated with paving. for a total of, and I didn't go to the Huckleberry School, but I wish I did, 911,257. So currently, for the remainder of this fiscal year and all of next year, we have $911,257 to spend on the roads. So I think that was the question that Mr. Lafferty was answering when he was asked. And he's shaking his head, so.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Gillen? Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Prosperi.
Thank you. Bob Prosperi, 6 Charing Cross. I'm 100% in favor of this, but I think just for general information, all of the paving that's done in this town is subbed out. So if anybody's concerned that we need additional people, we don't. Mr. Lafferty will put it out for bid. There'll be subcontractors that come in and do the fine work that they always do. So I don't think we have to worry too much about Mr. Lafferty not spending the $250,000 because he's exceptionally capable, and this will really do an outstanding job for our town.
Mr. Kennedy.
How are you? Tom Kennedy, sorry. 635 Lowell Street. I'm also on the DPW subcommittee. And Andrew obviously can speak better on this, but to speak to Mr. Prosperi, we do have the money and he will subcontract it out, but I think what Andrew is having a problem with is actually getting the subcontractors here and to stay here the entire time to actually spend the money. Because it's obviously not just Linfield that's been affected by this, it's been the entire state of Massachusetts. So in our conversations, he's like, we have $911,257,000. He's just not sure he's gonna really have the time or have the subcontractors to actually do all the work in the end of this year and the next fiscal year. But obviously I defer to Andrew.
Any further discussion from the public works? Yes, sir, up and back.
Mr. Bork and distinguished dais, friends, neighbors, I'm Jim Fox from 6 Hawks Lane in Linfield. I worked for a gentleman that spoke a little bit like Mr. Lafferty. He bragged about he was the only department that come in under budget every single year for 5 years. He got rewarded with being told it's time to go because they cut his staff by 30% and he couldn't get the work done. I'm not saying that that's the case with this gentleman, but I just always think of that when I hear people being offered money to do a job we definitely need done, ever thinking of refusing it. I firmly am behind the original motion and amendment that Tom made, and that's the way I will be voting. I hope the rest of you follow me. Have a great night.
Up behind, you still have your hand up, sir? Anyone else, any other discussion on these line items, the DPW line items? If not, we'll proceed to a vote on the amendment first. So let me read the article the way it would read if you vote yes on the amendment. I will then reread it if you vote no, and we'll try to keep this straight. The amended article would read, to add line item 73A entitled Road Repairs, Maintenance, and Replacement to the DPW operating budget in the amount of $250,000, thereby increasing the Public Works operating budget from $1,168,112 to whatever that is plus $250,000. Sorry? Right, it would increase the Public Works operating budget from $1,168,112, which is the original.
No, 1526732, 4 rows over. You're looking at 14, Mr. Bork.
sorry, I'm working off a motion up here that was submitted, and it's, the numbers are not correct. So, would increase the Public Works operating budget from $1,526,732 to $1,776,732, effectively adding $250,000. I did go to Huckleberry Hill School, that's part of the problem. Go ahead, your point? We're simply voting to amend the motion made by Mr. Terranova from 500 to 250. If you vote yes on this, it'll change his dollar amount to 250. So if you want to keep it at 500, vote no on this. If you want to make it 250, vote yes on this. Is that clear to everybody? Okay. Well, take the amendment, Mr. Hawks, first, okay? All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amount is changed to $250,000. All those in favor of the, is there any further discussion on the article at the current amount, increasing it by $250,000? In the middle? Yes, ma'am.
So earlier you heard from one of the members of the DPW subcommittee. We've asked the question to Mr. Lafferty. It was answered. He has $911,000 to spend, and we think he'll probably be able to come close to spending that. I think you can ask him again if you want him to answer it again, but I think he thinks maybe he can spend a little bit more than that. And if he could, I would agree our roads deserve it, but I think I think we're doing a good job of increasing this line item every year, and we've got to keep increasing it. I think we're all of the opinion that our roads need the work, and if we could spend $4 million and do them all over, that would be great. I just don't think that we could get the subcontractors to actually do the work. So, again, if you want to hear that from him, that's what we heard.
Any further discussion? Mr. Caggiano, please identify yourself.
Jason Caggiano, 5 Yorkshire Drive. I'd just also like to ask a question of Mr. Lafferty, and please correct me if any of my facts are wrong. There's been a lot of discussion here. I completely agree we need road work, but it really is a question of resources. And if I understand the way the numbers are now, we have about $200,000 in the current budget that has to be spent by June with the numbers that we have now. And if that isn't spent, it goes to free cash. And that's without adding anything, not the addition to what we're voting on tonight, not the 250, not the 500. So we already had 200,000 that's would have to be spent by June. My question is, do you think you can spend that 200 by June? And if we can't do that, adding an additional 250 or 500 on top of the ad we have already baked into the budget after a lot of discussions, I question the ability to spend that and not having it wind up in free cash. So the question is long-winded, but do you think you'll be able to spend, is it right that you still have 200 and can you spend it by June?
Mr. Lafferty.
Andrew Lafferty, DPW Director. Just clarify some of the numbers that are being thrown around. Currently, fiscal year 15, we are sitting on $34,000 that has not been spent in the operating budget for road work. The remaining $205,000 comes out of Chapter 90. Chapter 90 does roll every year, so it's not something that has to spend on by the fiscal year. So whether we spend that now or we spend it next year or future years, it's still there. As is fiscal year 16's Chapter 90 money. When that lands in the Chapter 90 account, that money adds to that, and that will roll until we use it. I will clarify, it's not that we can't spend the money, and it's not that we don't want to spend the money. The more money we put into roads, the better. We certainly won't argue the fact that it needs them. The bigger the projects get, the longer it takes and the more involved they get. So typically, if we were going to do a larger project, if we were going to add another $500,000, we'd start looking at bigger projects. And that type of project would probably roll us into a 2-year project because it would require some pre-engineering work prior to going out to bid and getting a contractor in. It's not that we can't do it, it just takes a little more effort, takes a little more staffing, both inside and outside as far as engineering services.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Mrs. Shea.
Katie Shea, 7 Daventry Court. So my question, Mr. Lafferty, is could you handle an additional $250,000? And for $250,000, how many more miles of road could you fix?
I guess that's a two-part question. The first is absolutely yes. The second is it doesn't really equate per road mile because it really depends on which road we're looking at. Some roads are, a minor overlay or resurfacing. Others have significant drainage problems. When we look at a road, we try and address as many issues as realistically as possible, from sidewalks to curbing to drainage work. So it really depends on which road we're talking about. Yes.
Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing no further discussion, we'll proceed to a vote on the motion to add line item 73A entitled Road Repairs, Maintenance, and Replacement to the DPW operating budget in the amount of $250,000, thereby increasing the Public Works operating budget from $1,526,732 to $1,776,732. The funds to come from the sale of real estate account. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Are there any further questions on line items 68 through 89, DPW? Moving on, line items 90 through 96, Human Services. Line items 97 through 103, Culture and Recreation. Line items 104 through 105, Education.
Mr. Moderator, I'd just like to make a correction to the book. For total education spend, the percentage is incorrect. It should read 3.99%. It is not 4.16%. It was a calculation error.
Thank you, Mr. Caggiano. Any further questions on the education line items? If not, we'll proceed to line items 106 through 112, Debt and Interest. Mr. LaCours.
Mr. Moderator, I have a motion here. Can I pass it up to the floor? And a copy to the Finance Committee, Mr. Dahlstedt. Mr. Moderator, Harry LaCours, 28 Partridge Lane. With respect to line 108, I have 3 questions regarding the data on that line that I would propose to ask Mr. Jack Dahlstedt, the Finance Committee Chairman, who is eminently the most qualified individual to respond to questions on the annual town warrant. The first question is, what is the transfer amount of $840,500 that appears on page 19, line 108 transfers? What is it, and where did it come from, sir?
Mr. Dahlstedt.
Sure. So the transfers category, or this column, was added in the book 2 years ago. The purpose of this column was to reflect any changes that occurred in appropriations that were made the previous April, between the previous April and the meeting of the current meeting. So if we had a special town meeting, or if there were any transfers like the transfers that we approved in our previous articles. So it probably should say transfers and changes. This was long-term debt that was paid down as part of the overlay by the assessors on the recap back in November. It was used to pay down debt that was outstanding. And I would agree with you, Mr. LaCourse, that probably in the description that we included, we probably should have maybe made a reference to the amount that was noted, but for reference, the line items that are bolded are ones that we thought should be called out on the notes page. And then what was the third?
Well, that's my second question, if you allow me, Mr. Dahlstedt, to...
Well, was there a third question
Well,
here?
let me get the audience involved in the question. They don't have the copy. So if you allow me to give you the second question, I'd like to answer.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Jack. The second question is why on page 20, in the recommendations column, is there no footnote or explanation of this unusual entry which distorts a comparable analysis from a year-to-year comparison? I'm really surprised that in your notes on page 20, there is no comment made with respect to this unusual entry to qualify that.
Yeah, so I think I answered the question.
You think it should have been a
already.
comment there?
Sure, I think maybe we should have put a comment about the amount. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Mr. LaCourse. We comb through these comments and make every effort to add comments that we think are relevant. But what I'd also like to suggest and make sure people understand, this does not at all distort your ability to compare information. In fact, it enhances your ability to compare information. And we as a committee modified the book 2 years ago because of that exact fact. And what we felt was that as the legislative body of the town, you were only seeing the appropriate amount from the previous town meeting. You weren't seeing any changes that were made between the previous town meeting and this town meeting. So I would completely disagree that this distorts your ability to compare this. I actually think it gives you a better ability to compare it to the actual number, because the actual number is represented in the revised FY15 number.
Mr. Dahlstedt, we're not on the same page. I completely disagree with you.
That's your prerogative, Mr. LaCourse.
Okay.
Would you like to read the third question to the audience?
I'm going to read you the third question so the audience can participate.
Certainly.
The third question is, one could say, there is a serious lack of transparency in the total operating budget increase of $1,296,201 at the bottom of page 19. Your committee is trying to tell the people here, taxpayers, that there's a 2.80% annual increase. That does not include the reduction of $774,500 on line 108. So that has to be added to the $1,296,201. So instead of showing that the budget is increased from $1,296,000 to $207,0701, you're showing a 2.8% increase in the total budget. That's incorrect. That budget has increased 4.34%. So it's not proper disclosure. Your finance committee has not given us a lack of transparency here, sir.
Completely disagree, Mr. LaCourse. If you were to look at this book prepared for next year, the revised number would become the actual appropriated number. So that 834 has reduced the long-term principal payment.
Let me try it again on you, Mr. Dahlstedt.
I can read it in front of me if you'd like to try to explain it a different way.
I'm going to talk to the audience for a second.
Sure.
If we look on page 19, the total operating budget is increased 2.80% because you've allowed a $774,500 reduction at the top of the page up there on item 108. So you've reduced the budget by that amount, and make it so 2.80%. That's not correct. That is not comparable budgeting. That budget has gone up 4.34% because you have to, you're making an exception and making that a comparable. It's not correct. I've never seen a finance person ever present a budget as you've just presented it.
Mr. LaCourse, I maybe have a little bit of respect in your comments, first of all, but second of all, Mr. LaCourse, this is the way that the budget has been presented. Transfers or changes to the line items are included and incorporated in the overall change to the budget. You can disagree with that, you can suggest that it doesn't align to your thinking, but that is how it's been presented.
Well, I understand how it's been presented, and I'm taking exception to it. So I want to say to the audience that if you look on page 19, and you think that that budget's gone up 2.80%, such is not so. That budget has gone up 4.34%. And I'm not recommending any cuts in anything. I just want transparency. Thank you.
I don't see how it isn't transparency. It's actually more transparency than you had before. 2 years ago, you wouldn't have even seen that column. So I'm really,
I'm afraid we're not going to agree, Mr. Dahlstedt.
we are. Thank you.
Any further discussion, Mr. Caggiano?
Hi, Jason Caggiano, 5 Yorkshire. I'm on the Finance Committee, and I've done financial reporting for financial institutions for the last 15 years. We tried to add this, prior to making these additional columns. I would tell the town, all of you would see one column here. You'd see one line of information. The reason to provide 2 columns is to give you more information, because we had a lot of questions from folks. If we only just showed you the revised column that says fiscal year 2015, that wouldn't equal to what you all voted on last time you were sat in this room last year. There are transfers that go on that are complicated for folks to understand. So the reason we wanted to show 2 columns, I mean, you can disagree with the percentages, but you can only disagree with the percentages because we're showing you the information. The things to really look at here are the numbers. I mean, you can run any percentages you want, but giving you what you saw when you made your decisions last year for this town's budget, that's your voted 2015. But through the other meetings that we've had and the transfers that have occurred, we show you the revised amount too. You can look at both percentages. The 2.8% is the worser of the two. If you want to calculate another percentage, we can switch the book to legal documents, or it's a question of how many columns you can add. I feel that the true thing here is that you want the data, you want the numbers. Percentages are just calculations. This shows you what we voted on as a town last year when we sat in this room, and it shows what it changed to. So you can see both and compare it to what you're about to vote on. That's all I want to say.
Mr. LaCourse, I'll recognize you after you get through other people that want to speak. Mr. Gillen?
Bob Gillen, 300 Main Street. I agree with Mr. LaCourse, and one of the things that prompted me to agree with him is that the transfer that we're talking about is a one-time transfer that was done at the second meeting last year. So I think that because we made that one-time transfer, we may not make that same transfer again this year. So I think if you pulled that out of last year's number, yes, we would have a 4-point-something% increase over last year, understanding that it was a one-time entry. Now, if you had the same entry this year, you'd be saying that that line item would be another $800,000. Then it would be comparable. But right now, it's not comparable.
Any further discussion? Mr. Hawks?
Hi, Jim Fox from 6 Hawks Lane again. I'm just curious. Mr. Gustus had told me before he left that most of our debt was in really super, super low interest rates. What is this long-term principal payment on? What was that, what is that for? Why did we do it? What is it?
Mr. Boudreau?
Are you asking what the 840 was a payment on?
I'm curious, it's listed as long-term principal payment. Principal, what did we pay?
Line item 108, Mr. Boudreau.
Sure, that is the principal payment on all the debt that the town has, including the school projects, any borrowing that the town's done.
All of the town's debt.
Yes.
And what interest rate was that debt at?
I'm going to guess it varies. Julie, do you have some of the interest rates? Right now, the interest rate for AA+ communities is around 2%.
And the way Mr. Guston was talking was probably less than that. Why in the name of God would we take 840 grand of a town that's supposedly a little bit strapped on a 2% loan? It looks to me like we voted for 287 back last April, and then it was determined by someone to pay another 840K that probably could have gone to do other things in this town besides paying off long-term debt that is at a ridiculously low interest rate. Can anybody explain that to me?
As low as the interest rate is, the amount of money that we're making on our investments is actually less than that. So to pay off the debt makes sense from a fiscal standpoint, because you're getting charged more on the interest than you're making on your money.
Mr. Miller?
Ladies and gentlemen, this increase was the
Name
result...
and address, please.
I'm sorry? I'm sorry, David Miller, Cortland Lane. This increase came about because the assessors unilaterally chose to pay off a debt which they thought by statute was required. The statute requires that all maturing debt be paid in a given year that is not otherwise provided for. We provided $120,000 to pay the installment plan that the gentleman just referred to. The entire debt was about $1,150,000. The assessors chose, in perhaps disregard of the statute, to only pay down $840,000 of it, leaving a hanging balance of $150,000. So that is still there from the $1,150,000. The $1,150,000 was a result of a capital budget that we had in 2012, where rather than paying cash, town meeting decided to pay it through debt. The debt was rolled once after 2 years. It was rolled again for another year ending this fiscal year. The same exact conditions existed in the prior year, and yet, even though required by statute, the assessors chose not to act on it. So I think what we ought to hear is some explanation from the assessors why they, without town meeting approval, based on the instigation of the prior town administrator, why they chose this particular year to follow the statute, but then only do it in part. Thank you.
Mr. O'Neill, care to comment from the Board of Assessors? He's raised a question.
Richard O'Neill, 1 Windsor Road. I'm a member of the Board of Assessors. I'm not the chairman of the board, I'm a member. So I am not speaking, and the board has not discussed this. I'm sorry, is this on? Okay. Is it on? Neither am I. Mr. Miller has come to several assessors' meetings, and Mr. Miller chooses to stand here and misquote a statute
and cast aspersions, negative aspersions against the Board of Assessors. We do nothing unilaterally. We follow the statute. We follow our managing assessor. Mr. Miller has been given opportunity to discuss this, has met with us. Now, what happened is that through the efforts of the Board of Assessors, and I'm proud to be a member of the Board of Assessors, post-town meeting, we engaged the services of a professional and qualified appraiser who looked at Market Street, and he determined that the assessment that had been estimated by Dick Simmons, our very qualified managing assessor, and Bill Gustis was somewhat low. We hired a gentleman by the name of Emmett Logue, who was highly regarded in the state as an assessor, highly regarded at the Appellate Tax Board in Boston as being able to support and defend qualified, fair, reasonable assessments. As a result of his efforts, the town realized from Market Street a sum of approximately, and please don't hold me to the numbers again, I didn't go to Huckleberry Hill either. I'm a parochial school product. We had a, and I'm not going to say a windfall because it's not a windfall. It was a fair valuation and it resulted in increased revenue to the town. Now, Mr. Gustis provides information, and our town treasurer or our town accountant provides certification of the budgets of all of the departments to us. We rely on them. The assessors, we apportion valuation. That's what we do. We don't set spending. We simply apportion the values of the property, and there's a calculation that comes to through which we arrive at a tax rate. That's our function. We could talk about it. Come to an assessors meeting if you've got nothing to do every other Tuesday night. Now, with that additional funds, unrealized at the time of the budget, the town had approximately $1.6 million extra, maybe $1.5 million of this new growth, additional new growth. Mr. Gustis took $700 and some odd thousand of it, and he put it in the overlay, and that's a question that Mr. McKenzie had asked me earlier tonight. That's where that money was. It wasn't 600, it was a little more than $700,000. That was put in to defend in the event of an abatement application and a successful prosecution of that abatement by the Market Street Group. That time has passed. We'll see what they do next year. There was $840,000 that Mr. Gustis and the treasurer suggested or put on to the recap sheet. Now, the recap sheet is the form that the assessors are responsible to provide to the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. They take our recap sheet and they forensically audit it. And again, all of the information on that recap sheet is audited by our town accountant and certified to us. The Department of Revenue looks at that number, and the Department of Revenue reports back again, and this was passed through two of the senior members at the Department of Revenue. It was unusual, but it was unusual funds. This was on the recap sheet. This was not a determination by the assessors solely unilaterally in violation of a statute, and I do take offense at that suggestion, personally and professionally, and Mr. Miller should know better. That money was taken and it was used, according to Mr. Gustis, to pay down short-term debt that was infinitesimally low. Do I know? No, I don't have that number in front of me, that bond number in front of me. We do have the documentation, however. And Mr. Gustis, again, provided that information to us, and the rationale was that net number was going to be used because this short-term, low-interest debt was going to roll over into a longer-term bond that was going to cost the taxpayers of this community over the next, someone will have to help me with the numbers, maybe 5-8 years, significantly more money. So Mr. Gustis took $840, he paid down short-term debt that was going to roll into a higher interest rate, and what he did, and again, whether you agree with the way he handled it or you don't, what it was a practical approach. Now, Mr. Miller wants to say that the town meeting was circumvented.
but you elect your Board of Selectmen to make decisions for this town that are in the best interest of this town, short-term and long-term. We don't always agree, but there is not one member of this board now or the Board of Selectmen before that I've seen that's done anything inappropriate. And the Board of Assessors, high-character people, notwithstanding myself. Bonnie Celli and Don Garrity, outstanding people. Dick Simmons, outstanding member of this community, formerly and now managing assessor. And this was the action that was taken. It was deemed to be in the best interest of the community. Whether you like it or not, whoever, Mr. Miller or whomever, nothing was done that was inappropriate and nothing that was done in violation of the statute. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My brother O'Neill, let me read the statute to you and you can draw your own conclusions, or at least the pertinent portions of it.
Mr. Miller, I'm going to ask you. Mr. Miller, I don't think it's germane to the current budget and what we're trying to get to, which is to pass the current budget. It's done, it's passed. And I think at this point, you've had your say, Mr. O'Neill has had his say. I think we should move on with this, because I don't think the statute is going to help us get to a conclusion on this particular article. Is there any further discussion on line items 106 through 118? Mrs. Campbell. If there's no further discussion on 106 through 118, I'd be happy to entertain it, Mrs. Campbell. Stay right here, she's going to be up. No further discussion, Mrs. Campbell.
I rise to speak against the adoption of the operating budget. This town meeting asked for 2 budgets. This town meeting intended to have 2 budgets to consider. I don't care what the Attorney General said, we're a local control state, and this town meeting hasn't been awfully well respected lately. This budget also reflects some outrageous salary increases, which people in the private sector and many public employees, including some in our own town, are not making. We discussed some of these salary increases include new town employees as well as veteran employees. We've discussed some. We did discuss a 13% increase. We've gone over enough to know that there's some large salary increases on the town side. But of course, on the school side, we only get 3 line items, and nobody much looks at the school budget. So I would like to call your attention to a few increases there. Speech therapist, from $67,688,000 for a 7% increase for one person. It's singular. You haven't seen the school budget, not too many people do. And it's going up to $72,459. Media specialist, 8% increase. Anybody here been getting an 8% increase?
Mrs. Campbell.
I'm sorry.
Mrs.
I'm
Campbell,
sorry. You don't have the right to interfere.
No, I
when
do,
you
Mrs.
called
Campbell.
on me and allowed
Let me
me to
explain to
speak.
you, Mrs. Campbell. We went through the educational budget. You had an opportunity to speak on those line items.
I'm talking about the bottom line.
That's
and
fine.
I am rising to speak against the operating budget because we haven't been given what this town asked for. And because we are not given enough detail in the school budget, 3 line items.
Mrs. Campbell.
For 118
Mrs.
isn't
Campbell,
enough for
I'll allow
half
you to
of
talk
the
about the
budget.
general operating budget.
Thank you, Mr.
If you'd like to
Burke.
keep it there. Any further discussion on the budget? Mr. Demania.
Joe Demeter, 11 Alexander Road. I'm sorry, but I have to go back and ask for a clarification. Mr. O'Neill, who I have great respect for, said that Mr. Gustis took money and spent it for whatever good or dubious purpose that he spent it for. And I am confused because I thought only town meeting could spend money, so I don't quite understand how he gets to spend that money. I need a clarification.
Who would like to answer that question?
The expenditure was at the suggestion of former town administrator Gustafson that was then raised on the recap sheet. So it was not an appropriation that he made by himself, but a suggestion to the assessors, excuse me, that this be raised on the recap sheet where it was. Not being here at the time, it's my understanding that the total new growth was not available at the October town meeting. It only came in after town meeting had dissolved.
Mr. Mania, if you're gonna speak, please get a microphone. I'll allow you to speak.
I understand what you're saying, but I still don't understand where the authority came to spend over $800,000. I thought only town meeting could spend that kind of money. Doesn't town meeting have to say, hey, you can spend that or you can't spend that? So how does he get to spend $800,000? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, the authority comes through the statute that was referenced earlier that allowed the town to raise this money on the recap sheet, which was then approved by the Board of Assessors, and ultimately, when the Board of Selectmen set the tax rate, it was on those forms. So the authority came through the statutes that allowed the town to make this debt payment, which was suggested by former town administrator Gustis, and that's where the authority came from.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Fox.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. The young lady down below here had brought up the school budget, and I know you should have said it then, whatever. I didn't see anything in the line items that discuss the cameras that they intend to put in.
It's in the capital budget. It's the next article, sir.
Oh, okay, that'll be there?
We're going to talk about it in Article 8.
Okay, thank you, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion on the budget? There's no further discussion. We'll proceed to a vote on Article 7. The operating budget for the town of Lynnfield at $47,918,389. All those in favor of the budget signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate by transfer from available funds or by borrowing, or from any or all such sources, sums of money for the purchase of various equipment and items in the nature of capital expenditure, to give authority to credit the value of various old equipment to be turned in toward the purchase price of said items, Said sums of money to be expended under the direction of various town boards, committees, or offices, or what action will take thereon. Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,314,820 for the purchase of various equipment and items in the nature of capital expenditures as shown in the Finance Committee report on page 21 thereof, with the exception that the $3,500 appropriation for the Historical Commission for landmark signs read landmark signs, cemetery stone and fence preservation and repair, and other related purposes, and to give authority to credit the value of the various old equipment to be turned in towards the purchase price of said items. Said sums of money to be expended under the direction of various town boards and committees.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,314,820 for the purchase of various equipment and items in the nature of capital expenditures as shown in the Finance Committee report on page 21 thereof, with the exception that the $3,500 appropriation for the Historical Commission for landmark signs read landmark signs, cemetery stone, and fence preservation and repair, and other related purposes, and to give authority to credit the value of the various old equipment to be turned in toward the purchase price of said items. Said sums of money to be expended under the direction of various town boards and committees. Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommend Article 8.
Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee in our meeting earlier tonight revisited this article and recommended it with the updated language for the Historical Commission.
I'm sorry, recommended what?
Recommended the updated language as read by the Selectmen for the Historical Commission landmark signs.
So for purposes of clarification, the language changes and how the amendment was worded. Within the town boards, amendments come, or motions, I'm sorry, how the motion was worded. The motions get circulated amongst the town boards. The wording had been changed over the last couple of days to reflect the language that you heard tonight. So what you've heard is what's actually being voted upon. Is there any further discussion from anyone in the group? Mr. Fox.
Excuse me, I'm just, oh, wow. I'm curious about this $225,000 for security cameras in the schools. I want to know if anybody looked into Homeland Security grants or any other type of grant. There is a ton of it out there. The police chief will be happy about the monies that's out there for the police department as well if they go after it. Little towns, 300-member towns, 300-person towns have security cameras all over their towns. I think it'd be a good idea to put security cameras, traffic cameras up here at the mall, and we could tag every truck that went through there. The chief could do it in his office instead of hiding behind a tree. But at any rate, has anybody looked into grants for these cameras? And if not, why? And also, I don't know if this to be a fact, because I got a fourth or fifth hand. I also had heard that there was probably $300,000 to $500,000 worth of federal money available for our parks project that nobody ever went after. I don't know if that's true. That's fourth or fifth hand. I know about the other grants as I looked into them.
Well, the Parks Project question is out of order here, Mr. Fox, but I'd be happy to discuss it with you outside this meeting.
Not a problem. I'm just saying to you that I heard that.
I defer to the superintendent of schools for an explanation on the cameras. Mrs. Tremblay.
Hi, Jane Tremblay, Superintendent of Schools. I'm sorry, the question
Jim
came
Fox.
from you? Okay. So yes, we did look into grants. Joe Piazza, who was our director at the time of technology, looked into grants and said we did not qualify for them. We did have a group of people. Chief Breen was one of those people, our director of technology, and Steve Ralston, who also serves on a statewide safety board. They all did the audit for us of all of our schools. I also heard loud and clear when I was talking to parents through surveys and through my entry plan that they were concerned about the security in our schools. And so through Chief Breen and Joe Piazza and Steve Ralston, this is the recommendation that came down. We discussed it at our administrative leadership team, and this is where we got the recommendation for this amount of money for security, to keep our schools safe and to keep our kids
No,
safe.
I understand the purpose, and I thoroughly agree. It's just that my questions about how should it be paid for. And part of the research that I did recommends that you hire a person whose job is to seek grants.
We do not have a full-time person.
I know that, but what I'm getting at is not you, but perhaps the new town administrator could look into getting some of these grants that are out there. It's a town of 300 people gets $10 million worth of cameras, someplace out in the Midwest. I mean, I don't know what the qualifications are. The MBTA, $20 million, Homeland Security paid for the cameras. $20 million, Homeland Security. They'll pay for cameras in this town. They'll give them to the police department. They have to ask for it. And I think traffic cam up there at the mall would be an absolutely outstanding use of monies. You know, you don't have to worry about having a cop on duty there to stop the trucks. Bob Casoli doesn't have to worry about his house being a truck stop.
All right, Mr. Fox, you're drifting off the subject. If you have
Am
any
I really?
discussion-
I'm so sorry. I really apologize.
That's right, please remain germane to the capital budget. Happy to entertain the discussion.
Have a good night.
Once you start talking about Mr. Casoli, I worry about it. Is there any further discussion on the capital article, Article 8? Up in the back?
Hello, Nan Hockenberry, 574 Main Street, Historical Commission. So under our capital budget line item, it looks like we have been approved for $3,500 for the landmark sign budget. That is a new project that we will be bringing before the town to mark our important landmarks in town, which is one thing that we have to replace, and we want to bring the project a little bit further along. But what we had asked for is also $10,000 to start a project that is our required mission by the Mass Historical Commission to do inventory of the important structures in our town. And we would be joining other historical commissions who use a paid professional to do this, and it's because it's a complicated process. It involves research. It has to be the inventory forms, and they're on structures, cemeteries, areas, and parks. It's required by the Mass Historical Commission, and it hasn't been done since 1976. So we had asked for that money to enable us to complete our mission. This inventory also helps with the long-term planning for the town in looking at what we need to do to preserve our historical structures and what are our preservation needs for the next 25, 50, 75 years. So we would respectfully ask for $10,000. This would be cover us for a paid professional, hopefully to do an area or two in town. It's not cheap. Usually it's $200 a building, but it's a little bit less expensive when you're doing an area because you can do more with less time. But it's our obligation to do so, and without these funds, we won't be able to perform a duty that's asked of us, required by us, from us by the Mass Historical Commission.
Stay up there with the microphone, I think. Mrs. Hockenberry, let me just see if I've got this. You're trying to amend this line item or amend the capital budget by adding $10,000?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
So I need a motion, if there's no one else that wants to speak since you've already spoken, I'd entertain a motion from you to add $10,000 to the capital budget for the purposes that you've just described. So
I'm sorry, you need that from me?
I need that from you, and I need somebody to second it.
Okay, so I I would make the motion to amend the capital budget for the Historical Commission to add $10,000 to their line item for inventory, along with the landmark signs for $3,500. So that would be $13,500. Summer Street School. High school.
It's been,
Center school. All of them.
Second it.
it's been moved and seconded to amend Article 8 by changing the amount of the article to $1,324,820, as explained by Mrs. Hockenberry. So, is there any further discussion on this amendment? Yes, sir.
Bob Miller, 21 Fernway. While I don't disagree with the requirement for this, I don't think it's appropriate to have this in the capital budget. Rather, that's a professional service. It belongs in a different budget category.
I mean, it could be in the operating budget, it could be a capital expenditure. The reason it wasn't included in the capital expenditure, as Ms. Hockenberry said, it hasn't been done since the 70s, so there is no requirement that there are timeliness on this. The request from the Historic Commission for their capital items came in when the capital budget was pretty much finished and the entire budget process was wrapping up. So at that point, I felt that there were just other higher priorities that needed to be done in a more timely manner than this. And it was something that could wait to a subsequent town meeting to have the appropriation.
Ms. Hockenberry, is all of the money to be expended on consultants? Is there a capital need for that money?
Yes, and actually, we had included that item in our yearly budget, our annual budget. We bring in an annual budget about $22,000, and out of that, and including these needs to preserve our cemeteries, the signage goes in there, and we end up being level funded at this point with the $8,000 you see on the light item. So it was initially brought to the table, and we were advised by FinCom to, even though we probably would not get it, that we would get it in the capital budget. So yes, it's important. We haven't done it since 1976. This becomes part of the town planning, preservation planning, with the MAPC and the North Suburban Planning Council, and we're working directly with an organization that is under those two committees, Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and ours is called HAT. It's a Historic Assets Team, and we are bringing to the attention of the MAPC and our town government the need for preservation planning. So it's an important step for us, and it's an important step for the town, and it will help meet our obligation, in which we have been amiss at. We have a new historic commission. Our other historical commissions had done this project in '76. You see the book by Marcia Wiswall, but it needs to be outdated, and it's sorely outdated. And so I'd say, yes, it's very important that we start to accomplish that this year.
I'm afraid, I think Mr. Miller is probably correct. It's not a capital expenditure. That's the problem, and it's out of order at this point, because it's not for purchase of capital goods. I defer to town council on this, but
that's the advice we were given from the
I'm sorry.
finance.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So you're telling me I'm not going to get my money this year?
I wish there was another way to do this. The capital budget has, even if it was appropriated here at town meeting, it can't be spent for the purposes of hiring a consultant, because that doesn't, under the law, fall under capital items. I'll take a second opinion if somebody disagrees with me. I'd be happy to listen to it and happy to help her try to get the $10,000 through, but. Is there any further discussion on the capital budget, Article 8? Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There is one correction to be made on this, on the right, the column on the right, under where it says school administration, 50,000. And then it says kitchen hood, 10,000 for a subtotal of 60,000. It should say council on aging instead of school administration. That is for the repairs being done at the council on aging section of the building. So just to make a correction there.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Article 8? Mr. Miller.
We don't have a comparison. I was just curious of the year-over-year comparison with the current fiscal year capital appropriation.
Mr. Boudreau?
The current fiscal year appropriation for capital is just over 600,000.
Mr. Dahlstead, did you want to be heard from the finance?
So I'm guess I'm just a little bit confused. Are we saying that no capital can be expended on services versus it has to be on equipment and/or something that can be depreciated?
Mr. Mullen.
Tom Mullen, Town Council. The problem is we cannot spend money under an article for purposes other than as are expressed in the article. It's a matter of giving the public notice of what we're contemplating spending money on. And Article 8 is worded to provide sums of money for the purchase of various equipment and items in the nature of capital expenditure, and to give authority to credit the value of the various old equipment to be turned in. That doesn't sound at all like anything that was described just now in terms of services for the Historical Commission, however worthy that purpose may be.
So septic engineering study and repair of the boiler fall under those categories? Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 8? In the back.
Gordon Forrest, 6 Mitchell Road. To that exact point then, those are very clearly not capital expenditures. I suggest we either remove those line items from Article 8, or we add Mrs. Hockenberry's request to level the playing field.
Perhaps I wasn't clear. The septic engineering study is in aid of a capital project. When the work is done, we end up with a septic system that is better than or bigger than the one we have now. So in that sense, it is a capital item. It is an item that involves ultimately a physical project. So I think it would be a hard sell to say that Article 8 contemplates the kind of services that we heard about from the Historical Commission, again, however worthy the purpose, but it certainly does contemplate something like septic systems.
Let me pose this question, Mrs. Hockenberry. Would the services you're describing for the $10,000 be an aid of determining where the markers are being placed that you're buying in this article?
Yes, they would.
Let me help you out.
We also do end up with a product. We have a physical inventory of our historic structures in town, which is it's a product. And yeah, it could be a catalog, absolutely, but it's a record, a town record.
So I'll accept the motion to amend the capital line item by $10,000 as seconded. Is there any further discussion on the amendment to change the amount of this line item to $1,324,820? Hearing none, I'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the amendment to change the line item to $1,324,820 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Any further discussion on Article 8, the capital budget? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote on Article 8. All those in favor of Article 8 in the amount of $1,324,820 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Before we get to Article 9, I'd like to move that we take Article 20 out of order. Article 20 is a financial article, and I'd like to get, it's something that we need to vote today, and I'd like to get that voted on before we start losing our quorum. We've already got several people that have left, and we've got people leaving now. So this has to be voted on tonight, so I'd like to take that article out of order and discuss it now, please.
It's been moved to take Article 20 out of order. Is there a second on that motion?
I second that.
So it's been moved and seconded to take Article 20 out of order. This is a motion that's subject to debate if you'd like to debate it. Is there anyone would like to be heard on this article? Hearing none, this requires a 4/5 vote. So if it's unanimous, I can move forward. If it's not, we'll have to do a hand count. This is a motion to take Article 20 out of order. I'm sorry, Ms. Shea.
Okay, before we vote on the transfer, Article 20, a transfer of $150,000 for the sale of real estate for an architectural design of King Rail Golf Course Clubhouse, I want to know the following. What is the estimated cost?
No, Ms. Shea, please hold your question. We're only talking about advancing the article. I'll let you speak. If we advance the article, I'll let you speak then. If not, speak afterwards, okay? The motion that's in front of us is to advance the article and take it up right now. So if there's no further discussion on advancing the article, seeing none, we'll move to a vote on the question. All those in favor of taking Article 20 out of order signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The vote is unanimous. We'll take the article out of order. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the sale of real estate fund the sum of $150,000 for architectural and design services for a new clubhouse at King Rail Golf Course, or what action it will take thereon. Mr. Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to transfer from the sale of real estate fund the sum of $150,000 for architectural and design services for a new clubhouse at King Rail Golf Course.
Is there a second?
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the town vote to transfer from the sale of real estate fund the sum of $150,000 for architectural and design services for a new clubhouse at King Rail Golf Course. Who wants to speak to the motion? Anyone? Is there a recommendation by the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommends Article 20.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends Article 20.
Any further discussion on this article? Ms. Shea?
My question is, do we have, and I know we need you want to get an architectural design passed, but do we have any estimated costs of how much the clubhouse could be?
Yeah, some of the early paperwork that I've looked at estimates the cost at around $900 to $1 million all in.
Okay. And does that include the parking lot? Is there going to be a parking lot there?
Yes,
How many parking spaces?
undetermined at this time.
Okay, but that includes,
That includes everything, the building, the parking lot, the whole shoot match.
okay. And then will the King Rail Golf Course revenue pay for the construction of the clubhouse, road, and the parking lot?
No, it's my understanding that the intention was to pay for that out of the sale of real estate funds.
Okay. So it's not going to be a self-sustaining entity? I mean,
No, it will be a self-sustaining entity. Once it's up and running, the golf course revenues will pay for the costs of the golf course. But it was always planned that the sale of real estate funds would be used to pay for the building.
thank you.
Mr. Crawford.
Just to further explain that, the funds that are in the sale of real estate account came from the sale of the land to Life for the Colonial Village Life project. $900,000 of that money that came from that sale was designated for the rebuilding of the clubhouse at King Rail.
Any further discussion on this article? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Mary Yanakopoulos, Westover Drive. Mr. Crawford, you referenced this when we were talking about repair of the roads, and I was appalled at that because the roads are so important, the infrastructure is so important, and you said something about lowering the amount for road repair for something like this. I just don't understand that.
Mr. Crawford.
Well, these funds were designated for the King Rail Clubhouse in the sale of the land to Life in the first place. It was part of the negotiation of the sale of land from National Development to Life, or to the town, and then the money was designated at the time to go to the rebuilding of the clubhouse at King Rail. That's what the funds were for. The structure of the money for the DPW and the road work was more contingent on how much work they can get done in a year, not the amount of money that was being appropriated.
Any further discussion on this article? Up in the back, or in the back of the first section?
Hi, Suman here from Alexandra Road. I guess my question is, has the architectural or design firm been confirmed who it is? And did we, what's the process? I'm new to this. So do we do like a triple bid? Do we get bids from people? And what is the factor that goes into assessing who's going to do this? And how long does this last? The $150,000, when does this assessment come to an end?
Mr. Boudreau.
We have not hired anybody yet. It will be an RFP process where the architect will be hired based upon qualifications. You set out a standard set of qualifications and rank each architect based upon their qualifications and their response to the questions. We expect $150,000 is more than sufficient to get the final design done and the bid documents all finished.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Follow-up question. You mentioned that when the building is built, it'll be about 900 whatever. Is this 150 included in that 900? Is the funds paying for both of those? And
No,
is
the
that
900 would be
inclusive?
the construction costs.
So that is separate from the 150?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long does the 150 last us? Like, what long process? How long is the assessment process?
What we're hoping is that we will have an article for the town meeting in October for the cost of the building, so we can start the building work over the winter when the golf obviously is not in session.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Way up in the back, Dr. Piner.
If I have this right, we're going to spend 16% as a fee for an architect on a $900,000 building. I think if there's any architects around here, there's probably a lot of them that like that job right now. Second of all, the golf course, when I last played it a few years ago, was an absolutely abysmal dump. Are we making any money there? If you really want to attract some golfers, have a nice golf course and then do your clubhouse later. I think we should consider that this might not be money well spent, and maybe we should consider limiting the amount of money to the architect to something like $50,000. As a matter of fact, I'd like to propose that as an amendment, that instead of $150,000, it be $50,000.
The estimate of $150,000 is probably high. We wanted to make sure that we had sufficient funds for the architect to finish the job. Just because we appropriate it doesn't mean that's what we're going to spend. The architects will have to bid on this and then negotiate a fee with us. Any money that's not spent will be turned back to that fund or to be appropriated towards the building. As for the golf course, the town has spent some funds on the golf course. We built a couple holes down there. I was down there the other day. It's actually not in bad shape right now. We do expect it to open with temporary facilities late in June, beginning of July at the latest, so we'll start bringing revenue into the town at that point.
Mr. Piner, I'll allow you to get up and speak one more time just to make your motion. From a format standpoint only, the way you made the motion, it's not in order. So if you'd like to make your motion and then we get a second, the town meeting will have something to vote on.
I motion that the amount of money that be allotted for an architect be reduced from $150,000 to $50,000.
Is there a second? It's moved and seconded to amend the item from $150,000 to $50,000. Any discussion on that amendment? Yes, sir.
Andy Youngren, Pine Hill Road. I'm a professional estimator. I can tell you from experience that if you underfund the design, you will more than pay for it in change orders and cost overruns. Do not underfund the design if you're going forward with this.
Mr. Demania.
Hi, Joe Demania, Alexander Road. Are we doing this backwards a little bit? Why are we supplying money before we have an architect? Why don't we send it out to bid, find out how much they want, and then fund it?
Because generally under statute, you can't issue a bid unless you have funds in hand. Yeah, you have to have the money in hand before you go out to bid, otherwise no one's going to bid on your project.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Mrs. Shea.
Katie Shea, Daventry Court. Do we have any estimations on how much revenue we think we'll make from this golf course, King Rail? Or how many players will pass through as far as the sizing of the building? Or
The size of the building is more for the storage of the carts and the equipment that has to go in there. There'll be a small clubhouse, a small pro shop, and a snack bar, for lack of a better term. Most of the building space is underneath where the carts and the equipment will be stored. We estimate, based on what King Rail used to do, that it'll be bringing in probably in the neighborhood of $600,000, which is about what Pine Reedy Meadow does. So between the two of them, we'll be bringing about $1.2 million, which is more than sufficient to pay the cost of the golf course.
so 600,000?
When fully up and running, we estimate it'll be about 600,000. We don't think we'll make that in the next fiscal year because we'll be running with a temporary clubhouse and some temporary facilities, but once it's up and running, 600,000 is not unreasonable for that golf course, depending on the weather.
And have we considered doing anything, I mean, this might not be popular, but more like a modular type of building that might be less expensive?
We would have to talk to the architect about that. Ultimately, the cost on a public job is the prevailing wage and the way the bid operates. It's just much more expensive for a public job than a private job. But it's something we can look at. I'm not sure to be a big cost savings. We'd have to talk to the architect.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. The motion is to amend Article 20 by reducing the amount from $150,000 to $50,000. All those in favor of reducing this amount signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The motion fails. Is there any further discussion on Article 20 at $150,000? Up in the back.
Hello, I'm from Alexandra Road, and I have a question. I saw this $150,000 proposal yesterday for the first time, and I'm can only sit and wonder, couldn't that money be better spent elsewhere? I don't know if you selectmen have come down to Market Street recently, seen off of exit 43, the beer cans and bottles thrown at the side of the exit. Recently, there was graffiti on Country Club's sign, for the dead end sign in there. And I'm wondering, wouldn't that money be better to used for policemen, to police the traffic down Walnut Street, to protect and serve and protect the residents of the town? I think that might be better use of the funds at that point.
Well, we appreciate that. We have actually, as we discussed earlier, added police personnel for that very purpose. The cleaning of the areas on the side of the ramps is a DPW, or if it's on the Mass DOT land, it's a Mass Highway issue. But these funds were put in these accounts for and designated for working on the golf course and the renovation of the golf course.
Is there any further discussion on Article 20? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. The motion is to vote to transfer from the sale of real estate fund the sum of $150,000 for architectural design services for a new clubhouse at King Rail Golf Course. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Back to the original warrant, Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or appropriate by transfer from available funds a sum of money for the town's stabilization fund, or what action the town will take thereon. Mr. Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000 to the stabilization fund.
It's been moved and seconded the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000 to the stabilization fund. Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommend Article 9.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends Article 9.
Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of voting to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000 to the stabilization fund signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Let me try one. I need a 2/3 vote on this, so let me try it one more time to see if we can get it unanimous. If not, we'll go to a hand card vote. All those in favor of Article 9 signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Thank you. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate by transfer from available funds a sum of money for the town's capital facilities fund, or what action it will take thereon. Mr. Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000 to the Capital Facilities Maintenance Fund.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000 to the Capital Facilities Maintenance Fund. The recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommend Article 10.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends Article 10.
Any further discussion? Mr. Miller.
I'm just curious what this is for and what it would take in order to spend this money. It seems that this is being put into a fund, but it doesn't indicate that the money will actually be expended. So I'm just asking for clarification.
Would like to answer the question.
The fund is exactly what it says, a Capital Facilities Maintenance Fund. Expenditures from the fund will require a town meeting vote. We can't spend out of this without coming back and telling you where we're going to spend it on. So this money is for future capital projects or facilities maintenance, and we'll have to come back to town meeting to have you vote to expend it. So it's just it's a savings account for our capital facilities.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. Motion is that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000 of the Capital Facilities Maintenance Fund. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money from the golf enterprise receipts and/or golf enterprise retained earnings to pay expenses and contractual services required to operate the Reedy Meadow Golf Course and King Rail Golf Course. Said enterprise fund to be credited with all fees and charges received during fiscal year 2016 from persons using the golf course or what action will take thereon. Mr. Barrett.
I move the town vote to appropriate during fiscal year 2016 the sum of $770,000 in golf course enterprise receipts to pay expenses and contractual services required to fund golf course operations. Said fund to be credited with all fees and charges received during fiscal year 2016 from persons using golf assets.
Second that motion.
Been moved and seconded to appropriate during fiscal year 2016 the sum of $770,000 in golf course enterprise receipts to pay expenses and contractual services required to fund golf course operations. Said fund to be credited with all fees and charges received during fiscal year 2016 from persons using the golf assets. Recommendation from the Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen recommend Article 16.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends Article 16.
Any discussion? Mr. LaCours.
I'm just curious as to what the expected income is. If we're going to appropriate $770,000, I don't understand what the revenue stream is from these courses. Could somebody speak to that?
Mr. Boudreau.
We're expecting to bring in about 500, well, what we're budgeting is about $550,000 from Reedy Meadow and the balance from King Rail. We're not anticipating a lot of funds from King Rail this year because we'll be working in temporary facilities.
So do you think that'll be adequate enough to cover the vote, the voted amount that you're proposing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this article? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. The motion is to appropriate during fiscal year 2016 the sum of $770,000 in golf course enterprise receipts to pay expenses and contractual services required to fund golf course operations. Said fund to be credited with all fees and charges received during fiscal year 2016 from persons using golf assets. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Article 17, to see if the town will vote pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15A, and any other applicable authority to transfer to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of sale the real property known and numbered as 567 Main Street, Lynnfield, Massachusetts, including the structures and fixtures thereon erected, being the same property conveyed to the town by deed. And I'll waive the reading unless there's an objection of the property description. This is the Center Farm Donovan property. I think everyone knows what we're talking about here. And I'd move to Mr. Crawford for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15A, and any other applicable authority, the town vote to transfer to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of sale the real property known and numbered as 567 Main Street, Lynnfield, Massachusetts, including the structures and fixtures thereon erected, being the same property conveyed to the town by deed dated October 2nd, 2014, and recorded with the Essex South District Registry of Deeds at Book 33587, page 278, from Donald M. Donovan, Charles S. Donovan, and Alice Cannon, trustees of the Center Farm Nominee Trust 2, under declaration of trust dated December 28, 2007, and recorded with said deeds at Book 27459, page 234, consisting of 7 acres in pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 3, Chapter 30B, Section 16, and any other applicable authority to authorize the selectmen to sell, transfer, and convey the said real property subject to an historic preservation restriction under General Laws, Chapter 184, Sections 31 to 33, pertaining to the said property and the exterior of the structures and fixtures thereon. Such sale otherwise to be on such terms and subject to such conditions as the selectmen may deem prudent.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded that pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40, and the other their applicable authority, the town vote to transfer to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of sale the real property known and numbered as 567 Main Street. Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommend Article 17.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee reviewed this article at a meeting tonight, and it is the recommendation of the committee to indefinitely postpone Article 17.
Is there any further discussion on this article? Mr. Prosperi?
Bob Prosperi, 6 Charing Cross. I wonder if they could, the selectmen could please tell me what we paid for the property, including all of the renovations that we did, and what the lowest acceptable price might be. And I'm fully in favor of selling the property with the restrictions.
Mr. Boudreau?
The town paid about $1.4 million for that property. We do have some money set aside for the repairs. We have not done those yet. The thought being, if we're going to sell the property, we're not going to pay to fix it up. So we've not expended those properties. The minimum bid, based upon the appraisal that we got back today, would be $825,000.
Mr. Prosperi, if you have questions, please wait for the microphone. Happy to entertain them, but please wait for the microphone so everyone can hear you. Can you bring a microphone down to Mr. Prosperi? Okay. Any further questions? Ms. Inglese?
Kendall Inglese, 23 Huckleberry Road. I was really nice and quiet through all the other articles in appreciation for all the other things that we do for a town. And, you know, quiet through the second golf course. Or is it the third golf? Oh, it's the third golf course. Second? Anyway. But I think that the Center Farm was heartily voted 512 to 6 or something, June, end of June. Do you know what the vote was for the special town meeting we just had? It doesn't matter?
I don't recall. It was significant.
Well, I just wanted to point out that the Center Farm, during that vote, we had appropriated money to repair and to make the appropriate indoor repairs to it. It was assessed to the heating and certain things like that, and it hasn't been done. Is that what you're saying now? Well, it looks like we haven't had any structure to do anything with the farm, and I just wanted to express that my frustration in that I had a proposal and ready to roll, and there was no one that would hear it a month ago, and I know that we could keep the farm going with like a occasional use community center. I know that's a little crazy idea, but just out of dues alone, occasional function space, art display, and so forth. So I think that the fact that we haven't had the options to even have a plan, or that the long-term maintenance building committee doesn't have a square footage in the plan and didn't give us any opportunity for the community to do anything with this place. I'm just very disappointed. So I'm wondering why the selectmen are suddenly turning the window of time, which was originally agreed to 8 months ago for 2 years, without assigning people that would be able to do a plan for this property.
The question was to the Board of Selectmen on why they want to move forward with it at this time. Is that your question, Mrs. Elise?
Is Ted Caswell here, or anybody on the long-term, or Andy?
Yep,
would
I'll
you speak
recognize
to-
Ted up back. Mr. Caswell?
You had a couple hearings on this. You want to tell us what happened?
Hi, good evening. Oops, sorry. Ted Caswell, Forest Hill Ave. I also chair the Capital Facilities Committee. The town voted last June, about a year ago, certainly to save that farm and preserve the farm the way that it sits now. Over the last year, we being the Capital Facilities Committee, have had 2 public forums. The most recent, which was in March of this year, was extremely well documented, advertised in the papers, etc. We did not receive any viable solutions to utilizing that property. And when I say that, I'm going to go forward a little bit and say the town is a bad landlord. I mean, the town doesn't want to own this. We don't want to operate it. We don't want to, lose money on it over time, maintenance, etc. So getting back into certainly the ideas, Kendall's got some great ideas. First of all, I enjoy, and I think everybody else would enjoy, that property to be something more than it is. But from a commercial application, there's a lot of restrictions that are going to be required, not only rezoning, but also ADA compliance, costs, etc. There's going to be parking lot, whatever that might be, to then feed into those uses. And also the building modifications themselves is going to change that property drastically. I do think that, again, Kendall, your proposal was certainly received well. What it didn't do is it doesn't outline how the town sells that property or how somebody buys it from the town to then utilize it for those uses. So the viability of that proposal isn't quite 100% or not quite complete. The goal is to preserve this property, and certainly the Capital Facilities Committee recommends at this point is to sell the property very quickly, and whether that be a residential use or commercial use or whatever that might be, let's move forward on this. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Duggan?
I'm Tom Duggan, a 50-year resident of 6 Westway. I oppose Article 17, and this is why. The interior of the center farmhouse is not a 2015 dump. It is an 1815 historic treasure trove in a Currier and Ives setting. The town of Linfield and its related affiliates is the largest and most powerful real estate operation in Linfield. It owns a nearly $50 million Linfield budget, over $100 million of Linfield real property, and over 1,000 acres of Linfield land, all cared for by hundreds of Linfield employees and thousands of Linfield residents. The now 100% town-owned park-like setting, consisting of Center Farm, 2 historic cemeteries, the Little Cape, and the Meeting House, is Linfield's front yard to the world. The majority of this park-like setting is Center Farm's 7 acres. This gritty Linfield Center Park impacts the character and value of every piece of real estate in Linfield. Linfield should maintain direct ownership and direct control of it forever. In closing, let me say 2 things. First, I am disappointed by this capital asset flip article. Second, I thought we had 2 years to come up with a good faith, community-wide usage and management plan for Center Farm.
Any further discussion on this article? Yes, ma'am.
Abby Kilgore, 7 Melch Road. Presently, I just want to clarify that presently, the town meeting holds the right to approve the sale of the farm. So we would be giving it over to you. All right, I respectfully oppose that. I would like the town to make that decision, because we made the decision to purchase the property and preserve the property. So allow us that opportunity as a town to bring a bid to the town that tells us what will happen with that property.
Mr. Dressios.
In accordance with the town charter, the planning board has considered the article. The board voted unanimously not to recommend the adoption of the article as presented in the motion. A little history on this. The planning board, back last year, started to look into doing a study of the town center. That study is underway as of last week, and the first traffic counts of the study will be done tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. Then additional work will be done where they close South Common Street and do the counts again. Then we will go forward with a visioning center and ask everybody to come in with their ideas of what to do with the center. It was one item that was verified in the master plan as being something that needed to be fixed. We have a number of ideas from that master plan. We should go ahead with a master plan. Unfortunately, selling the land now, or the center farm now, would preclude any ideas that may come up that have to use some of that land. There are some ideas that right now that would use some of the frontage. We don't know if that's the right idea or the wrong idea. Again, we're doing the study. We got a grant of $8,000 plus, not your money. We've worked and got a grant on this. I think we deserve the time to take a look at this grant, come up with some solutions. If they work out, great. If they don't, so be it.
Mr. Gillen? I'll take him first, and I'll take you right behind him, Mr. Gillen.
John Gilbertson. I live at 220 Essex Street. Can you hear me?
No, I don't think the mic's on. I have no clue.
My name is John Gilbertson. I live at 220 Essex Street. Lived there a long time. Some of my companies have built many houses in this town. It's a very, very nice town to live in. I've got 4 kids. They all graduated from the high school, and they went to the best schools in the world. I think it's a great place, no question about it. When I came to that meeting where they bought the center farm, I was so pleased and so proud of our town. They saw a good deal and they bought it. And I can't believe what's happening here tonight. My goodness sakes, after a few months, you want to give it to... After a few months, you want to give this over to some group who's going to sell it off for a few bucks. That is sacred property. We don't know how lucky we are to have it. Let us take some time, make some studies, and do what these gentlemen have presented as being a worthwhile aim. Just to take it off and sell it, my gosh, it makes a few bucks for some real estate brokers. And what else does it do? That's a wonderful piece of property. It is a thing of beauty. And a thing of beauty is a wonderful thing to have in any town. Most towns don't have it. I'm amazed that we got it. That's about all I can say about it. I think some of the prior discussion that was made by this gentleman, one over there, is very good and very helpful. I certainly hope we turn this idea down flat tonight. It is no sensible solution at all. I thank you very much.
you would give the mic right to behind you. Okay. Mr. Gillen.
Mr. Moderator, I make a motion that we indefinitely postpone this article.
It's been moved and seconded to indefinitely postpone this article. Is there any discussion on the indefinite postponement? Mr. Duggan. I oppose the indefinite postponement. Any further discussion on indefinite postponement? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of indefinitely postponing Article 17 signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Moving on to Article 18, to see if the town will vote to accept so much of General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 39C, as provides that no fee shall be charged for a license for a dog owned by a person aged 70 years or over, or what action it will take thereon. Mr. Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to accept so much of General Law, Chapter 140, Section 139C, as provides that no fee shall be charged for a license for a dog owned by a person aged 70 years or over.
Second? Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the town vote to accept so much of General Law, Chapter 140, Section 139C, as provides that no fee shall be charged for a license for a dog owned by a person aged 70 years or over. Recommendation of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommends Article 18.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends Article 18.
Is there any further discussion on this article? Why? Somebody up front want to answer that?
This was just an update to coincide with the Mass General Laws, according to our town clerk. I don't know if is Trudy here? Trudy.
Am I here?
Can't see behind me.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote on Article 18. To see if the town will vote to accept so much of General Law, Chapter 140, Section 139C, as provides that no fee shall be charged for a license for a dog owned by a person 70 years of age or over. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The article carries. Article 19. To see if the town will amend its bylaws to add the following scenic road bylaw as printed in the handouts that you received tonight. I'm going to waive the reading. I'll allow Mrs. Aronson to make the motion if she'd like.
Beth Aronson, Durham Drive. I move that the town vote to amend its bylaws by adopting the scenic roads bylaw as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to adopt the scenic roads bylaw as printed in the warrant. I'll allow you to speak, Ms. Aronson, on the motion first.
Okay. As you will hear, this bylaw has the support of the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, the Historical Commission, the Board of Selectmen, and the Finance Committee. We've just talked about giving the people of our town control, and this bylaw would do just that for our roads. Over the past several years, the Tree Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission, has worked with all the named committees to draft this bylaw, which is under a 1973 state law, which has been adopted by over 1/3 of the towns in Massachusetts. We feel it is a good fit for Lynnfield, and the time is now, the time is right to put this under our books. Passage of this bylaw would mean we get a chance, a cost-free, tax-free chance to keep our roads' character. A scenic roads bylaw would help us keep our scenic beauty and our rural quickly disappearing country roads, which are our legacy and which we'd like to be there for our children. The bylaw regulates certain roadway repair, maintenance, and reconstruction activities. It applies to private citizens and it applies to the town. It gives our residents a voice and a way to oversee the future of our roads. A scenic roads bylaw would be an effective tool by providing a public forum. In the past 5 years, the Tree Committee has been involved in reinstituting and maintaining our Tree City designation, Arbor Day celebrations, having a tree inventory of the commons, tree awareness through tree contests, tree talk, library displays, and arborist education. Through our work in understanding the public shade tree protection, we have learned that there is the scenic roads bylaw that is appropriate for our town because our roads also deserve protection. And this would give us a voice and an easy mechanism through a hearing administered by the planning board for activities only in the public right-of-way. It does not restrict anyone from doing anything on their private land. The Scenic Roads Bylaw offers a chance for the people along the designated streets, which will be designated at a future town meeting, to have a say in what the character of those streets could become in the event of road widening projects or subdivisions. No tax consequence, no private property taking. In fact, your property values, if you live on one of the roads that will be designated in the future, will actually increase. Adopting this bylaw will help preserve the rural and historic character of our local roads, increase environmental protection, and maintain aesthetic qualities of our town. And then the next step, if we pass this, would be at a future town meeting to designate the roads. Once again, you will have a voice. The roads most likely to be proposed for vote at that time would be the 5 oldest in town: Essex, Main, Summer, Chestnut, and Lowell streets. Thank you.
Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommends Article 19. We've seen several versions of this, and we've asked for some changes throughout the last year or so, and we were happy with the final warrant article that was proposed this year, so we do recommend it.
Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee also recommends Article 19.
Does the Planning Board have a recommendation?
The Planning Board also recommends adoption of this article.
Is there any further discussion on this article? Mr. Miller?
For clarification, I'm hearing two different kinds of language in here. Under the purpose paragraph, it says no privately owned property shall be subject, but at the same time, it talks about stone walls and other kinds of things that would necessarily be on private property. So I'm really curious if you could explain that, because initially it would seem that this would restrict the town from modifying the path of a roadway. And yet, at the same time, in your introduction, you talked about how well, that's my question, is I'm just kind of curious how it affects private property.
Mrs. Aronson?
And I can let others who feel competent to answer this in the planning board add to what I say. But only if one has a stone wall on one's property, it has to be at least partially in the public right-of-way to have it applied. If you have a stone wall that is entirely private, you can do with it what you want. Does that answer your question? Okay, the public right-of-way is being protected, and that is determined in each case, as specified in this warrant, by the town engineer if there is a question. Each road has its own measurements.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Miller? Mr. Prosperi?
Again, Bob Prosperi, 6 Charing Cross. What about a curb cut?
If a curb cut is
a new cut, and it is on a designated road, once the road is designated, that would give cause, from my understanding. If it is not an existing driveway, it would be a new curb cut. That might give cause for us to, for the town engineer to take a look, and then for a hearing to be held before the planning board to determine if in fact there is an issue. Is that correct?
Any further discussion? Mr. McDonough.
I can't believe it. You're telling us this will give more control. You're taking control away. If I have a stone wall, you're telling me I can't remove it, repair it, replace it. If I have a tree that needs to come down, I've got to come to the town to get permission to take the tree down. You're taking my rights away.
No,
You're
I'm
telling I'm not through.
I'm sorry.
You're telling me that the rights of way on each street are specified. Where? They're not specified in this. We're giving up all control to the town to a bunch of boards that I don't trust. Why do I want to give up control of my land out to the sidewalk? I can't believe you're even considering this. I can't believe the Board of Selectmen would approve this. And I think this is nothing. This is trash. And I suggest we
Mr.
vote it
McDonough,
down
I'd ask you to be
immediately.
respectful of your fellow citizens.
I'm being
of town.
respectful, Mr. Book.
When you call it trash, I don't think you are.
It is trash.
Have a seat, Mr. McDonough.
Why, you gonna have me removed, Mr. Book?
I will.
Good, do it.
I'd just like to address two of the points that were made. Actually, no roads are designated, so that no effect will be held after the passage of this until such time as we do designate the roads. This is providing a structure for, once those roads are designated with your approval, to protect the individual even against the public's use of the public right-of-way. It has nothing to do with private property. And I believe Mr. Faria wants to address this point as well.
I can't say I wanted to address it, but I will. Thank you. No, this has no effect on private property whatsoever. This only affects the public roadway and the land within the public right-of-way. It does not affect your rights on your private land. On your private land, if you have a right to take down a stone wall, this does not affect it. If you have a right to take down a tree on your private land, this does not affect it. Right now, you are also forbidden from taking down a stone wall or a tree on the public ways. Actually, what this does is gives you a benefit if you're lucky enough to have your road listed as a scenic roadway. Once the road is listed as a scenic roadway, you get a benefit in that at that point in time, a tree that may be on your property or may be on the scenic roadway and it's in question, you have a right to call the town engineer for a determination as to whether or not that tree is within the roadway and is a public tree that the town has to take down or has to give you permission to touch, or he will also let you know if that's a tree that's on your property and you have a right to do whatever you want. That's a benefit that comes out of this that you would not ordinarily get, and it's a benefit and a problem that we have seen personally in front of the planning board, that people have difficulty having a determination made. Without this bylaw, you have to go out and you have to hire a surveyor to determine where your tree is, whether it's within the public way or whether it's on your private property. Many instances, it's very difficult to tell. But with this, if you are within the ambit of this bylaw, you have that ability to get a determination from the town without charge. But this does not affect private property whatsoever. What it actually does is allows you to have input into whether or not your street is going to be changed. Right now, there's no real process for a public hearing. There's a determination that would be made to change a street, and you wake up in the morning and next thing you know there are trucks and graders out there and it's too late. The way this works is if there is going to be any kind of a change in a public way that's designated as a scenic road, it has to have a public hearing. There will be public notice. You will be given advanced notice in terms of what is going to be happening, and and you'll have an opportunity to come out and be heard. It really increases the power of you as an individual citizen to have determinations and control over what's in front of your house and what the ways look like in this town. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Over here on the left, sir.
My name's John Hager. I live at 80 Underhill Road. I have 2 acres of land. I'm a tree lover, okay? But I also respect other people's property here. This is nothing but the slippery slope what's going through. This lady come by last year and she brought up the same amendment, but she wanted any tree taken down in your property go through the town. I think the town's got more important things to do than to come by my house. I know where my land is, okay? I probably have 2 dozen trees on there. If I want to take a tree down on my property, that's my business. It's not her business or anybody else. And the fact being, what we should be talking about, go across the street right here. You got a tree across the street that's ready to fall. We got many trees across this town that's ready to fall. Once that tree falls, it's going to hit a house, it's going to hit a car, it's going to hit a kid or something else, okay? Let's not trust the government, okay? And this is the government telling us what we have to do, okay? I have a surveyor. If I want to take a tree down, I want it. I do not want to go through the town department. And now we go through the town department. This is not a 2-day thing. I'll guarantee we'll be tied up with that board for 2 months. Please, like that gentleman said up there, turn it down. It's a slippery slope. Thank you.
Further discussion. Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, Townsend Road. By saying that this is only public property that applies to, we already have the control over the public property with the selectmen and the planning board. So it would seem to be moot to have this law. If this law applies to places where the stone wall is the boundary between private property and public property, then it is going to apply to us, and it's going to be a problem. It's interesting that that the proposed streets only are up in Linfield Center as opposed to Salem Street or South Linfield, which are probably the oldest streets in town. But this seems, if it's going to be applied as proposed, to be moot, and if it's going to be applied in any other way, it's dangerous to our ability to control our own property.
Take that microphone right up the back, gentleman with the beard.
Hi, is this thing working? My name's Butcher Hannon. I'm at 756 Summer Street. I've been here about 10 years. I think it's too late to make any road historical. And why only 5 roads? Make every road historical. You know, why would you make the people on those roads, Summer Street being one of them, why would you make that? Why don't you make Pine Hill Road or any other road historical?
I wish you
That's
were
my
here.
question.
Can I answer that? I wish you were here 10 years ago and proposed that. Many of our towns have made all their roads historical. If you look to many of our neighboring towns, they have done that, including towns that we might, not consider to have the same historical beauty that we have. Why haven't we done it? I can't answer that. Have we seen a lot of changes to the historical quality of our roads? Yes. But again, this really has nothing to do with private property. If you would just take the time to read the carefully constructed language that took over 2 years and all the committees I've named, and actually has no teeth in it because we're not naming any roads today, I think that you would find that this makes a lot of sense for Linfield, as it does for many towns, and almost every town that has considered it has passed it.
Mr. Priestley.
Bob Priestley, 3 Wing Road. Move the question.
It's been moved and seconded to proceed to a vote on Article 19. This motion is simply to see if we want to move forward and vote on the article, not on the article itself. So all those in favor of ending debate and move to a vote on Article 19 signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The debate is ended. We're going to take a vote on Article 19 to see if the see if the town wants to adopt the scenic roads bylaw as printed in the warrant. All those in favor of adopting Article 19 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Let me try this one more time. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. Call for a vote. Are there 7 voters? All right. The tellers are still here. If you would rise. All those in favor of this article, please hold your card up so that the tellers can count your card. Ms. Parziale, your yes vote? 3. Mr. Doyle? Mr. Maney? Mr. McKendrick? 11. Mr. Russell? 8. All those opposed to Article 19 signify by saying nay. Hold your card up. Ms. Parziale, a no vote? Mr. Doyle? Mr. Maney? Mr. Russell? Mr. McKendrick? 56. Yes votes 70, no votes 56. Article 19 carries. We can question the quorum after the article is passed.
Now, this is a general and not a zoning bylaw. Therefore, a majority is required, not a 2/3.
Quorum has been questioned at this point. Let me take a count. If the tellers would all count their sections, just everybody that's in their section, and please give me a count. Registered voters only, please. Make sure you don't count any department heads that are sitting in the crowd. Ms. Parziale, your count? Mr. Doyle? Mr. Maney? Mr. McKendrick? Mr. Russell? $151, we do not have a quorum. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second that motion?
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Hey, that worked out well. So now we're gonna come back? So now we coming back again? Huh? Are we coming back on the alternate date? Mr. Goodrow.
Yes.
Paul Martindale, I'm on the Conservation
Nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Good. I'm also on the Billings Pond Subcommittee Commission. We're looking at a new proposal. We've actually asked for a different quote,
Hey, Joe.
which we just got today.
How you doing? How's the golf game?
If the tellers would bring their counters back to the front, please.